Hello, everybody. This is Bruce Montgomery. Thank you for joining me on another edition of the Green Engine Network. Yes, this is the fastest growing television channel in cannabis, global. We're all over the place talking about cannabis and every other good thing that relates to this fastest growing industry. And we are right here in Chicago, Illinois, hoping to bring some social equity to the game of cannabis here in Illinois. And anybody that knows anything that is going on in this industry, we know that 2020 has been a year unlike any other. It's been a phenomenal year in some respects for this industry in Illinois. But for those of us that are on the outside looking in, we are still trying to figure out if there's going to be a port in the storm that we might be able to poke our toe or finger or arm in and try to get into this game. But nonetheless, we are undeterred because we are Green Engine and we are choosing to grow. And that is our motto. That is our reason for being. And with me today is my compatriot, my co-founder, co-conspirator, someone I think the people are out looking for her right now. So she caused so much trouble.
That's true.
People want to know what's going on. And so we thought we'd bring her out of the front office, out of the back office, out of the side door, and put her on the camera so people can know who is this that's helping make this Green Engine thing real here in Illinois. And it's none other than Wendy Esger. Wendy, how you doing?
Great. And I mean, as you know, everyone's going to get to be a little bit of a fly on the wall. Bruce and I are talking for the past year or more daily, if not more than once a day. And now you're just going to get to be sort of a voyeur and listen to what we talk about, what we lament about, what we scream about, and what we laugh about every day.
Well, I think that's good. I'm the kind of person that gets struck with bolts of imaginatory grandeur. And so this idea for Green Engine Network was one of those. And I think it's important for people to document their story and to tell their own story themselves. One of the great opportunities today is that we have these platforms that we can tell this story. So right now, you and I are using two platforms at once. We're using the Zoom platform to connect remotely. You're up on the far north side of Chicago in the northern suburbs. I'm on the south side here in the Hyde Park area. And so we're talking and connecting like most people on the planet have done this year because of the pandemic and other things. They're taking advantage of virtual activities. So we're having a little conversation, but like you're right, we do talk all the time. It's been a wonderful ride. So how did we get connected? How did we come to meet each other in the first place?
Well, first of all, we are two of the most insanely curious humans on the planet. So that's something we share in common. We also have an entrepreneurial spirit within each of us that is, insurmountable. And when we saw this nascent industry and we heard rumors on the horizon that adult use in cannabis was going to be legalized in Illinois, you over on the far south side, me over on the far north side, we're both like, we got to get in. We got to learn everything we can about this industry. And I think we were both just struck by the commitment, or at least the professed commitment, to social equity in cannabis in Illinois. Both of us wanted to learn what that was more about. We wanted to ensure that it happened. We wanted to help the players, the social equity applicants, try to understand what their kind of rights were within this new law in Illinois. And I think that's how we met, because we were helping entrepreneurs and social equity applicants in and around Chicago to understand the law. And as we endeavored ourselves to understand it, but bringing your great skill set, Bruce, which is literally helping new businesses write their business plans, get capitalized, and try to launch. And me, sort of the flip side of the same coin, for my entire career, I have been also helping startups and helping large brands create new products and new services and ideate and innovate and invent for them. So kind of that we both are involved in startups and innovation. We were excited to do so within cannabis, and that's where we really met, was endeavoring to do so.
Well, you're a University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana alum. I'm a Northwestern alum, which is kind of interesting. You went down south, I went up north.
Right.
But you're right. I just so happens I was doing some teaching of entrepreneurs in the Inglewood community, and one of the co-authors of the legislation was the state rep from that area, and I happen to also know at that time the senator from Olympia Fields in the southern suburbs, Toy Hutchinson, who was involved in this. So I had kind of heard grumblings of the policy and legislation that was going on. I know people were advocating for some opportunity because, again, after all, this is an industry that anybody growing up in the United States, and certainly in cities of Chicago, we know that there has been over-criminalization. There's been all kinds of things that have happened as a result of the so-called war on drugs that have not been kind to these communities. And so the fact that there could be some flip of the script where all of a sudden legalization is possible, and other ways of looking at it other than this through the lens of inequity really was quite remarkable. So the first people that reached out to me were people that were saying, well, if this is going to pursue, people are going to need how to approach this from a business perspective. And so people start calling me, asking me questions and say, hey, would you talk to this group of folks with an agricultural or farming background? Would you talk to these groups that have a street background and they want to know what they're going to have to think about? So it's quite a remarkable conversation. And I endeavored to kind of want to learn as much as I could about what was going on. So I have to admit, I wasn't paying a lot of attention to this on a national level, but once I started to pay attention, it was like, oh my God, what's going on? California, Massachusetts, Florida, Canada, all this stuff going on in Canada. People were figuring out ways to do reverse business activity because since this is been and still is a illegal substance in the United States, how were companies, getting capital, and how were they putting these companies together? So Canada made a move very significantly that started to create this industry. So it was a remarkable thing. But as you said, you and I paths crossed because with this so-called social equity concept, well, how is this going to be made real?
Yeah. And I will say that we both were, as we were getting involved and more involved in this, I was learning so much, about what was actually happening on the South and West sides and what was this over criminalization. It certainly wasn't, I wasn't living it. And Bruce, you were probably seeing it, and Bruce was able to, open my eyes and sort of widen my perspective for sure, which I'm certainly very grateful for. That's part of the beauty of the law, is that here's me and here's Bruce, and we can have this meeting of the minds, and we can know each other as people. I mean, I know you now, Bruce. I know when you're in a bad mood. I know when you answer the phone a certain way that this was happening, and if you say this to me, this is what you really mean. And I saw your grandkids that came this summer. You've been working with my daughter, who's been helping with our social media. And my goodness, if that is not the path forward, and also for you to be able to tell me a little bit about what didn't happen in the tech industry, where you have spent a lifetime career, and what should have happened for ownership, Black and brown ownership in tech, or social equity availability and opportunity in tech, and how we could make it right in this industry.
Oddly enough, my original experience, both academically and in my first work experience, was in advertising and marketing arena. And when I made the switch to technology, a lot of it was motivated by the thought was maybe it would take a new industry to bring prosperity and opportunity back to some underserved communities. So part of what piqued my interest about the growth of the then early computer business was that I said, hey, if this industry is young and emerging, maybe that's the way where somebody could connect with an industry on the rise and kind of bring that capacity back to communities that had been abandoned, because the big story about the South and the West Side is that where there once were steel mills and other manufacturing capacities, so many of the household names in Chicago that I remember growing up on the west side of Chicago, Zenith, Motorola, Spiegels, Alden, Sears, AT&T, Western Electric, all of these guys were booming back in the days, in the old days, my father's time, my grandfather's time, and then to see them all just disappear from those communities and never to return, you know, I thought maybe a new industry could come back. So I think that's kind of what so many people that inspired people to, you know, bet their life savings, try to get their hands around the compliance and regulatory issues, dig into advocacy, because again, you got to recognize it took legislators and their constituents motivating them, because what really happened in Illinois, where, you know, most people didn't know much about what went down in medical. That was all kind of quiet and under the cover of darkness and behind closed doors. And so, you know, you just knew that some guys were out there getting a chance to be a part of this. And so when the, you know, the rumblings started coming that there could be a different approach, then people in communities got encouraged, and they encouraged their representatives to advocate for this public use, this adult use. But I tell you, you know, we had a wonderful time, and I tell everybody that there's no way that anyone, myself or anybody else, could do this without the help of a diverse and competent and extensive team. You know, we have reached out to growers in California. We reached out to legal advice here in Chicago. We've also have accounting and finance advice. And this is not, you know, it's just so complex a business and industry. It's ridiculous.
I mean, the 500+ page application that Bruce and I and our team, I mean, and when he says team, there is no I in team, and we needed every last person, all of their brain power and energy on that application to even just cross the finish line and finish it, let alone to the highest standard that would make it a winning application. And when Bruce says, you know, it took everybody, and it took a diverse team, and it took a team that was motivated, and a team that was bright and smart and hardworking, but it also took a team that wanted to do it right. Like, we're endeavoring and with all of our will and all of our might to uphold the spirit of the law.
Well, I
make
would say
economic growth in a disproportionately impacted area, and to, you know.
But also, truthfully, Wendy, we would not be here today if it wasn't for you. I think you single-handedly were the pit bull that you know, because, you know, it's a lot of times you would say, you know, hell, we got to throw in the towel on this. I mean, you know, zoning, security, HVAC, you know, you got guys from California that are like, you know, I don't really know if I care about Chicago that much. I mean, personalities, so many things. And it's almost ridiculous to think that how does a team organically come together that quickly to submit, you know, all the security clearances and fingerprints and everything that you have to do. So literally, to talk about jumping through hoops, I have never seen in my years of business consulting and business planning and business development anything as rigorous as this process was. And then after to go through all of that, thinking that, okay, it's going to be a level playing field, you know, you're going to get out there, you're going to take your best shot. And what made you think you weren't in Illinois? Or you
I mean,
weren't?
we kept saying maybe it won't be like, you know, the Chicago, Illinois, you know, behind the scenes and the politics and just all of that.
Welcome to America.
We're seeing it, and now there comes the lamenting. Bruce and I can't even believe that we're sitting here without any knowledge of when they are going to award these. By the way, we are a craft grow applicant, which means we are endeavoring to create an indoor premium hydroponic grow facility in an urban setting on the far south side or the west side or a disproportionately impacted area of Chicago, to grow cannabis. And we needed to understand the nutrient system, the strains and the genetics, and what were our standard operating procedures. How are we going to keep the facility clean? How are we going to keep pathogens out of the facility? I mean, down to every little last detail. And I think Bruce will remember that midstream through this application process, through writing this rigorous thing, this pit bull literally got shingles. That's how stressful.
Well,
I don't know, my head, something's going on, right?
And then before we could submit our application, this notion of COVID and the pandemic started to creep out, and so it's been a tumultuous year, to say the least.
We couldn't even get together to write this. We were writing in isolation. Everybody was in shelter in place in isolation, and we've got these great growers, as Bruce said, in Humboldt County that. One of them I've known a lifetime, and they're talking about things they've been doing for years that we hadn't even thought about, that they've been growing in that Emerald Triangle, the epicenter of cannabis in the United States. And that's our just high-powered grow team. And
so it's a lot of lessons in this experience. I think you and I, again, the way our paths specifically crossed is we thought, I thought, and I was asked to, make a contribution from a standpoint of helping social equity businesses look at the business opportunity, create strategic business plans. And in fact, you and I were tasked with, we met a real estate guy, and he had a building, and he asked us if we would help him vet different people who might use this building for such a process. And after looking at a cadre of folks that weren't really that serious, we said, well, hell, why don't we put an application together?
Wait, where do you live, Bruce? And what about? All right, we met a lot of good people that would want to work in the grow facility because they had, maybe they had a little of efficacy around agriculture, or they had a little, but nobody who wanted to actually take this on and run a business and write an application. And we just said, all right, we're going to do it.
And even then, I think with a certain amount of hubris, we took it on, but I don't even think we could have imagined how arduous and complicated the process was. But again, it is a blessing, and it is an experience of faith that sometimes you're put into certain opportunities that are beyond your current understanding. But if you are not scared of growing, if you're not scared of hard work, if you're not scared of meeting new people that are going to test you and push you and ask you some rigorous questions. I know in this business, people start saying, well, you need to send me 10 years of tax returns. I'm like, who are you?
We had to give them talk about being scared about identity theft. We had to provide in that application between fingerprints and, as you say,
it's a complete unmasking of everything. So it's been a phenomenal experience, and yet we're sitting here. We made application in the springtime. We thought we were going to hear something, late summer. Here we are, almost November 1st, and not only have we not heard anything about our craft application, but the people that came before us with dispensary applications that they submitted in January, they thought they were going to hear something in the springtime. They haven't heard anything either. So all of the social equity, even though Illinois, by all standards, had the most comprehensive in legislation law on the books to support the opportunity for social equity, it has yet to be realized. And right now, with litigation and everything that's going on, the process is flawed by a whole variety of things in Illinois. We just don't know where we are. So then, we're making this decision, but we've got so much invested, so much time, so much, legal fees, other professional service fees.
Real estate
Real
lockup. You
estate.
had to have the real estate.
So it's a hell of a thing to put your life on the line and resources on the line. And of course, you know, we are families, modest families from modest means, and so we had to go to our spouses and others, and they said, "Now, why are you doing this again?"
You know, Bruce's wife, my husband are like, "What? What?
You know,
Seriously? And we're gonna spend this, and we have no idea if we're going to get an application. We have no idea." And I think one thing that Bruce and I do very well, because he's like, you know, it remains to be seen if this law and this, you know, opportunity for social equity will actually be realized. And then, you know, there's litigation going on in the accounting firm, you know, the KPMG, there's all kinds of, how did they score, and did they score it objectively? And then, you know, we always play kind of devil's advocate to each other. And I'm like, but it does still remain to be seen. And we still believe that the process will end up better than it has in any other state. And I like to remind, in every state that has legalized adult use, every application process has been wrought.
That's absolutely correct. And so
with all kinds. So this is not outside of the realm of what we might have expected. Of course, we wished for it to be different. COVID came in and did a whole nother number on this process. But what Bruce and I have decided is, we're just going to pretend that we are this, because we are. We're really,
well, we absolutely are. And
we
so,
are the little green engine that could. So we just keep chugging away, plugging away and chugging away. And that's why we're doing this interview. And that's why we're writing all kinds of content to help people understand what's going on in cannabis in Illinois. And that's why we're sharpening our pencils, and we're figuring out exactly what HVAC we're using now that there's even new technology since we wrote the application.
Well,
HVAC. So
there really is. And so there's two kinds of capital that is going to take to be successful in this business, or really in any business. Of course, there's real capital, because if we were, you know, people would tell us all the time, "Oh, you guys are, you know, if you guys get a license, people are going to be throwing money at you." Yeah, right. Well, we certainly haven't seen that, but it's true though. Real capital, real dollars, real investments, you know, are going to be needed to mount up what we've described we wanted to mount up. And so it's going to take people writing checks. It's going to take pitches to investors. It's going to take that kind of money in order to be competitive or even in the game at all. The other capital, though, is relationship capital. You know, businesses is based on relationships and the quality of relationships and integrity-based relationships. And integrity is hard to come by in any business experience. But you know what? Good people are out there. And so one of the reasons, you know, I'm more inspired ever before, because this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a 50-yard dash. If we've decided that this industry has an upside, and I believe it has all kinds of upside, because it's not even been fully researched or vetted. We don't know much about, you know, you and I have been talking about CBD over the last couple of weeks, and you know, the studies have not been done on what the benefits or
cannabinoids.
Yeah,
tip of the iceberg.
So this industry is just like, in my estimation, the computer business was, you know, 30 years ago, when I was just getting in it. You know, what it appeared to be then, and you know, no one at that time would have predicted that people would be walking around with pocket-sized computers that could connect to this global network, and there would be cloud storage and all these kinds of things. And so I think the same thing is here with this industry. The particular applications of this in very beneficial, human beneficial ways have yet to be seen. So if we actually believe the blessing that we've been given to just have a glimpse into the future of this industry, that we've got a lot to look forward to. So we've got to reach out and make connections with people that understand all of the aspects of how bringing this innovation forward could really happen. And coming from places like we've come from, University of Illinois, you know, Northwestern, University of Chicago, Illinois, you know, agricultural R&D, that's what Illinois is all about. Biotech, life sciences, Abbott Labs, Baxter Labs. That's what Chicago, Illinois is all about. Hospitals and university hospitals, Northwestern, University of Chicago. So there's so many seen and unseen ways that this industry is going to change. This little glimpse into recreational use, adult use, recreation, that's just one area. And we have a chance to be a part of it. So, our message today is certainly to continue to be support to each other and try to say, don't throw in the towel, don't give up the ship, don't go back to.
Up. We are this close. And we have made those great relationships, and we have been making those pitches to investors, and they're all on board if we get a license. So we just have to wait. However, Bruce and I, being a lifetime involved in marketing and new products and new businesses and launches and startups, the ancillary side of this business is going to be the biggest of all. I mean, only a tiny finite number can get licenses, and we sure hope that we are one of them. However, we also know that the innovative among us, there's exponential amount of businesses that surround cannabis that don't touch the plant. And when we say ancillary, that's what we mean. And we want, if anybody's listening who's like, well, I didn't put in an application, but I am interested in cannabis. You could be a social media company for cannabis. You could do packaging for cannabis. You could do a marketing firm or an ad agency for cannabis. You could be doing, you could be an accountant in the cannabis space.
Well,
whatever you're doing regularly, just make cannabis one of your niche areas, and you can probably segue in.
Well, I mean, merchandise, I think of financial services. Right now there's a terrible conversation, or not terrible, but an opportunistic conversation going on around, how does this industry, access financial services? How do consumers pay? And how does the B2B infrastructure exist for this industry? So, from everything from blockchain to Bitcoin to PayPal to all of these kinds of innovative financial services, that's going to overlay this industry. Communications is going to overlay this industry. Touchless engagement is going to overlay this. And already what people tell me, talking to the folks that I've met since I've been involved with this process, we're talking about a state-of-the-art indoor craft grow facility. The technology of indoor agriculture, aquaponics, all of this kind of stuff is just exploding right now. And this industry has been partly significantly responsible for so many innovations that have come to this kind of activity. So when we're talking about climate change, when we're talking about growing locally, we're talking about green, this industry is probably one of the most from the ground up green industries that the world has ever seen. And so there's so many innovations we plan to be a part of. I think it's going to be a wonderful experience. I'm delighted that I was tapped on the shoulder and took a little time to look into this. And I think that, like you said, if folks are out there and thinking, hey, did I miss something? Yeah, I missed anything. Yeah, this train is still not left the station.
And by the way, Bruce and I also talk about, and we have about 3 minutes before we'll probably get ending here.
Boot it off.
Yeah, but we also, of course, talk about Plan B and Plan C, and we can pivot and adapt. That's what we're resilient. We're entrepreneurs ourselves for a lifetime, so we know that there's not only one road. And the intel that we have gained in every area of this, and the great team we've brought together, can come to bear for other teams that perhaps do get a license. We feel very expert and very willing and ready to help others down this path, even if we don't get a license. So that would be something I know Bruce and I would tackle wholeheartedly together as well. There's more than one way to cut a cake, and Bruce and I like cake.
Well, I definitely like it. My mother was a master at making German chocolate cake, and that was my favorite for most of my life. Did you
tell them the other weird thing, that my dad used to design record album covers for Mercury Records, which was a huge record label in Chicago, and then Bruce was like, no way, my aunt worked at Mercury Records. And then we found all of these
Yeah,
He remembers the labels that my dad designed, and wow, it was like it was a funny
well,
kind of intimate moment.
Chicago's a music city. It's a jazz city. And so I think there are a lot of parallels and a lot of connections to this early industry and how it can be very significant coming together. So, our message is we found that there was a lot of symbiotic, soulful connection that we had to each other. And we're two people that, paths might not have crossed had it not been for the pronouncements of this cannabis opportunity. We feel very blessed that we approached it very organically. We didn't have any big mystery backers. We're not stalking horses for somebody else's activity. Our names are on the line. We signed everything, all of the legal documents. I lived in this community on the South Side and on the West Side, the majority of my time on the planet. So I can tell you chapter and verse about so-called impacted areas and what's going on there. And so I think that we're very
optimistic. I've learned through your eyes. So, I have such a better understanding. And, you talk about our paths would probably have never crossed. So I am certainly thankful and for that piece of it, because, Bruce and I are actually doing the doing of it every day. And as a team, we're both bringing skills to bear on this process.
So this is what this year 2020, this is what this pandemic is all about. We've seen the great human sacrifices of our first responders and people that are working on the line, keeping people healthy, keeping families together, working in transportation and retail and all of those mission critical activities. And so this is a time of immense transition for the world. And I hope that we as spiritual beings, as thinking beings, as feeling beings, that this is an opportunity. We are called to a higher calling. And this is an industry that could really help do some things that right some past wrongs and maybe take a different approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion that too many industries have never even approached. And it would be wrong on spirit, it would be wrong on legitimacy if this industry that has gone so long with the misplacement of problems and challenges would not right those past wrongs and say, let's approach this inclusively, let's approach this through an equity lens, let's make sure that this could be an economic engine, not only for the South and the West Side of Chicago, but for many communities that would like to participate using the talents of STEM education, using the capacities of innovation and creativity. And I'm delighted that we'll have this opportunity. And I'm delighted I've been given the blessing of meeting Wendy, yourself, your family, all the folks that you've introduced me to from all across the country. I know we're just getting started. And our message is, hey, you can see us on Instagram, Facebook. We've got our own TV network on YouTube.
Green Engine Grow. Green Engine Grow. Look us up. And it can happen in regulated industries like we see, because left to its own capital devices, the tech industry, the music industry, the Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, NBA, 2 franchises owned, Black owned. That's it. But look at how many of the athletes are, and look at all the billions of dollars they generate. Yet where is the ownership? We're doing it here. We're doing it now. We're doing it through Green Engine. Bruce and me, you're going to see us more, because hopefully we win at the game and we do it right.
Well, it's been delightful to, this is just the first in a long series. I hope we continue this dialogue. We're going to bring more industry players to the table to have a conversation, and Green Engine is going to make a big difference, not only in this industry, but in the world, and certainly beginning in the lives of those in our care and keeping in the neighborhoods and communities that we care so much about. So we thank you for joining us, and reach out to us, send us a note, give us a comment, we'll follow up with you. We want to connect with all the good people in the world that's a part of this phenomenal growing industry, making a difference each and every day. My name is Bruce Montgomery.
Thanks, Bruce. I'm Wendy Esger, and we will see you again.
All right, have a good one.